Well, hi guys, it's that time. It's our little bit running late Bible teaching snippet of the day. I got a telephone call from an old friend that I have not talked to in a while, and I got caught up and just spent some time, and that's okay. People are worth my time, and I like to invest my time in people. So I am running a little late because of that. But yesterday, what I did is I re-recorded my personal testimony, which I have not recorded and posted on public media for over a year and a half, okay? So I updated it, and the last one was a whole lot shorter, by the way. It was about 9 minutes long, and yesterday's was almost 14 minutes. I did a lot of teaching. That personal testimony is packed with a lot of biblical teaching in it. But today, what I want to do is I just want to talk a little bit more about my salvation that happened in my mother's hospital room. And because there's some events and details that I think really enriches what was really going on with me and during that period of time in my life of coming to know Jesus. Let me start with when I was talking about how that I would pray for her at night and do an atheist prayer and just say, I don't believe in you, but she does, and I will honor her and I will pray for her because she's not able, okay? And the night that I did get really forceful and I put my hand on her chest above her heart, and I was pretty much, if you want to call it, getting on to God. I started, I know you can heal my mother. And this is what I want to talk about today a little bit. I made the statement that I told him to take my good, strong heart and give it to her, and to give me her weak, sick heart, and to take me and let her live. And I said that because of this. And I do want to make sure that people know this. This was not just some crazy prayer that I did, okay? I actually tried to buy my mother a heart, and I could not buy her a heart. I had been on the phone with people because I knew that's what she needed, was a heart, okay? Now here's another thing. I had just been to have a physical, a full, complete physical, and I was in perfect health. While I was there, my doctor told me, he says, well, heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, all these hardening of the arteries and stuff like that runs in your family on both sides. And he was right. My mom and dad, one of my sisters had some heart disease and had to have open heart surgery when she was, I think she was 38. They used to make comments at family gatherings that everybody in my mother's family had open heart surgery by Dr. Wolf, and that, we should get a family rate. So I agreed to do this thing called a heart CT scan, and it just scans a certain section from like your throat right here down. And so the tech that did that test, okay, she does the test and she freaks out and says, oh, I need to redo that. And she said, let me just reset my machine. And when somebody does that, you're just like, what in the world is going on? And I wouldn't say that I was in fear as much as I was really like, why is she so freaked out here? Okay. She ran the test again, and it came out exactly the same the second time. And she felt bad. She said, I feel so bad because I know that the way that I reacted to your test had to make you wonder what just happened. And she said, I just wanted to let you know, I have never seen anyone's heart in this good of condition. You are 45 years old, and you have the heart of a 25-year-old. Your heart is strong. Okay, you have zero blockages in any arteries or anything around you, and I have never seen that, because by the time a person hits 30 years old, they have what they call hardening of the arteries and blockages and stuff, and I had an absolute perfect functioning great heart, and that's why I told God, take my good strong heart and give it to her, is because I knew what I was offering for my mother that night. Okay, Now, the next thing that I want you to know about, and I was following some biblical principles that I did not even know about. My family talked a lot about how everybody, got high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and different ones in the family have heart problems and had heart surgery, and we're all, it's genetic. Did you know I used to say things like, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to be sick. I'm not going to have a bad heart. I'm not going to, and I would just cast down all of those vain imaginations. And I want to read you a Bible scripture, and this is in red. Jesus said it. He said, verily I say to you, that whosoever shall say to this mountain, be thou taken away and cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but believe what he says takes place. Whatever he shall say shall come to pass for him. So, and that's in the Darby translation. I like that translation of this verse. And what Jesus was saying is, when you will declare with your mouth and you believe what you declare with your words, God will honor what you say and it will come to pass. And here's another thing. It doesn't matter if you're a believer or an unbeliever. Our words have been given power by God. So whatever we say, he didn't say whatever good things you said would happen. No, he said whatsoever you say. So if you're speaking the wrong words, even just not thinking about it, those words will go out and accomplish what you have sent them to do. Okay? So we need to be mindful of our words, but that's what I was speaking over myself for so many years, for over 20, 25 years. Every time someone would talk about, well, that's what our family's like, that's how our family is, I would take captive those vain imaginations that people had put to words, and I would cast them down with my words and say, no, that is not me. Everybody else can be sick if they want to, but I'm not going to be sick. I'm not going to have heart trouble. I'm not going to have high blood pressure. I'm not going to be a diabetic. And guys, I don't mind telling you how young I am. I'm 56 years old, and I have zero problems health-wise. My heart is in perfect condition. I'm not a diabetic and all of that, because my words that I speak have power in my own life. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is, the Lord told me that my mother was not going to get well and that she was coming to be with him. And I've just got to tell you this story today because I want you to know about this. When my mother went into hospice, I had so much peace, just absolute peace, knowing that she was going to be okay, because I had been reassured by him, that I was actually accused by a couple of family members that I didn't even care about Mother because I wasn't upset. And see, they were misreading the lack of me being hysterical and crying and screaming as me not caring about her. No, it wasn't that at all. My mother had fought very, very hard for 6 months, and she had already told me she was tired and she just wanted to go home, that she didn't want to fight anymore. And I told my mother, I said, you go ahead and go, and you be at peace. I promise you, I will take care of everything for you. And I told her that, and she told me she was worried about my brother, my younger brother, who's 18 years younger than me. And she was very upset, and she told me that she just didn't want to leave because she was concerned for him. And I said, Mother, don't you worry about him. I will always make sure that he's okay. And did you know, now this gets a little emotional for me. We were all gathered around her bed, and at her last breath, when she breathed her very last breath, the rest of the family was all gathered up toward the head of the bed, and I was at her feet, and I had my hands on her feet, praying silently for her. And when her spirit and soul left her body, her spirit and soul came through me. I felt my mother's spirit push and go straight through me. And the minute that she came through me, the first thing that I did was make eye contact with my baby brother. And I just looked at him and walked over to him, and I wrapped my arms around him. And I said, you know that I will always love you. And guys, I don't know if that was my mother or me or whatever, because both of us meant it, no doubt about it. But did you know, in my heart that very day, he became mine. And I have never loved him like that before. I always loved him, but I had never loved him like that until that day. And I still see him as my own child. And that is amazing for me to be able to experience that as such a baby, new little Christian, right? Now, let me get my tears dried up, because I want to tell you something really good as well. After my mother passed, okay, and I had complete, absolute peace all through her passing, as well as us seeing her being buried and everything. But shortly after, maybe 2 or 3 months later, I saw a vision of my mother, and I wasn't sleeping because I got up every 20 minutes to check on her, so I broke my sleep cycle over that 3 or 4 months that I did that in her her restorative care room that she was in. So I didn't know how to sleep because I broke that cycle. But in one of my short little naps, I saw a vision of my mother, and she was coming toward me. And she wasn't old, she wasn't gray, she wasn't sick, she wasn't on her walker, she wasn't having oxygen on her nose so she could breathe, none of that stuff. She came up to me in like a slow motion pace, smiling ear to ear, probably between 35, 40 years old, guys. And she looks at me, and when she gets like 3 feet away, she is just smiling. And she says, "Faye, I never quit praying for you." And she just smiled. And then I woke up. God confirmed to me that my mother was not only okay, but my mother knew that I had received Christ and that I had been born again. So here's another thing that I had told you guys, that I didn't cuss like I did after that night. And I want to tell you about that. You know, after Mother passed and I'm at my business that took 80 hours or more per week out of my life. I lived in my home for 3 years and had never even hung a picture because all I did was make money. It was money, 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 money. I paid people to count the money because I didn't have time to count the money. But anyway, I'm sitting there in my office with my husband, right? And he's cussing about some stuff that's gone on in the business, right? Which is pretty common for the two of us. We cussed a lot, and I cussed more than him, okay? But he was just really upset, and I'm just so calm in my chair. And I looked at him and I said, "Baby, I want to ask you something." And he said, "What?" And I said, "Have you noticed that I don't cuss anymore?" And look, he actually cussed. He used a cuss word, right? He went, "Huh! You don't. Oh my goodness, what happened to you?" And that's when I told him that I got born again in my mother's hospital room and that I had not wanted to cuss since that night. So listen, guys, here's another thing. I got out of that business that was obsessive for me in me making money. I was the money-making arm of that business because it was a sales company. And I had won all the, I tell people I had all the pictures and trophies and all of that. But I sold that. I got out of that business, okay? I sold it back to the mother company for pennies so I could get out of it. And I retired again. And when I got home, I did not study the Bible for 3 hours a day anymore. I started studying the Bible anywhere from 8 or 10 hours a day, 12, 14 hours a day. And I have to say, you know, my husband was not a believer for about 5 years after I was born again. But he has never, ever given me a hard time about anything that I have ever done related to my pursuit of knowing God. I wrote an Ephesians prayer out of Ephesians chapter 1, and it's verse 17 through 24. In fact, today, one of my buddies, Lisa, she posted that, and it reminded me of that prayer. Did you know I wrote that completely just under the guidance of Holy Spirit, and I would pray that prayer every day before I would start studying. So listen, I'm going to hop off here. I just wanted to give you some more personal information about my wonderful experience of meeting Jesus in my mother's hospital room and how radically my life has been changed for the last 11 and a half years. I love you, and I hope that you will have a good evening, and I will see you here tomorrow, okay? Bye-bye.